Just as a quick disclaimer, I was provided a review copy of this by Atlus USA. Radiant Historia is a time travel JRPG originally released on the Nintendo DS in 2010 for Japan and 2011 in the West. Developed by Atlus, which you might know from some of these incredible games like that one, and 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 that one. The game was a big risk for the company since it was a new IP unconnected to any of their main franchises. Fortunately, this risk paid off, as it was considered by many critics to be one of the finest RPGs to ever grace the console. However, it never truly gained the popularity it deserved, and instead amassed a cult following due to its unique gameplay, mechanics, and departure from Atlus's standard design tropes. Radiant Historia solidified itself as one of my favorite games when I played it years ago, and it always depressed me how little it was discussed amongst JRPG fans. Skip ahead 7 years, and Atlus has remade this gem for the 3DS, as Radiant Historia Perfect Chronology. Equipped with a bevy of new features and refinements, this updated version of an already great game is perfect for newcomers and returning fans alike. Radiant Historia takes place on Vancouver, a war-torn continent that's slowly dying from desertification. The two kingdoms front and center are Alistel and Granorg, whose conflict is steadily worsening as their homes continue to deteriorate. Players step into the shoes of Stock, a stoic, determined member of Alistel's Special Intelligence Department, who is given a mysterious book called the White Chronicle right before a pivotal mission. When said mission goes horribly wrong and his subordinates are killed, Stock wakes up in a realm called Historia, and is told by two strange children that the White Chronicle has the ability to bend time to his will, allowing him to travel to any important moment in the timeline, given that he's already witnessed it. They task Stock with ending the desertification of Vancouver by leaping through timelines, eventually reaching the true history. With knowledge of his past mistakes, Stock jumps back in time and rewrites history, saving his comrades and completing his mission. However, once Stock returns to Alistel, he has to make a decision that splits the timeline in two, respectively named Standard and Alternate History. Now with the weight of the world on his shoulders, Stock's journey to save the future and uncover the secrets of Vancouver begins. These two timelines have many distinctions, but a crucial theme in Radiant Historia is that time remains unified, no matter what. Basically, what you do in one timeline can ripple into another, and Stock has to take advantage of that throughout the narrative. The premise is fascinating as hell, and I can say, without a doubt, that Radiant Historia executes it near perfectly across the board. The large cast of characters are all distinct, realistic, and complement each other wonderfully, which keeps the pacing of this engaging tale of political intrigue at just the right speed. This is genuinely one of the most realistic takes on horror I've seen from a game. It doesn't shy away from showing you the clashing opinions about the horrific war, which goes a long way in helping immerse the player into the world. Also, while the politics of Vancouver are vital to the narrative, the existence of Mana and the White Chronicle strikes a good balance between both sides, so it never really gets boring. Now, this is usually the part where I would pause the review, give an exaggerated sigh, and say something along the lines of, unfortunately, the solemn main character hurts the entire narrative by being a generic lead, or something like that. But it may surprise you to hear that Stock manages to avoid a lot of the classic cliches. While at first glance, he might look like the generic strong but silent type, there's so much more to him than that. Most of his personality is revealed to the player through his inner monologues and dialogue with the twins. Stock has lost countless comrades before we take control of him, and these repeated failures have molded him into a quiet, mature, sad, but more importantly, a determined and caring individual. He's a good man who's gone down a bad path, but the White Chronicle gives him a second chance. His transition from being essentially a tool used by his superiors to carry out their dirty work to someone with complete control over his destiny isn't really something I've seen done before. He's not the type to cry or scream very often, which can be shown through his calm demeanor after experiencing many of the game's bad endings. This makes the scenes when he actually does break down due to shouldering such a heavy burden feel that much more impactful, and is precisely why I think Stock is the perfect protagonist for a story like this.
Colin, we gotta move on, man.
But wait, I haven't even talked about the amazing performance by his English voice actor, Xander Mobus.
Listen, you can't just focus on one character for this long. People are gonna get bored. Why not talk about gameplay or something? Please, anything else.
Alright, fine. Let's move past my utter adoration for the story and start talking about Radiant Historia's gameplay. Most of your adventure will have you traveling to different locations in Vancouver, exploring dangerous landscapes, visiting towns and villages, and taking on some of the game's various side quests. Radiant Historia does a great job at integrating its story elements and gameplay mechanics, with the White Chronicle at the center of it all. When accessed, players are given a flowchart of the timelines, letting Stock jump to any moment he's already been to. This stellar mechanic allowed the developers to get really creative with level design, giving the game a unique sense of progression. The story will play out normally, but given Stock's role as an observer, he'll occasionally need to switch between timelines to make the ripples sync up in order to accomplish his goals. All the side quests are based around time travel, and Stock uses his gift to help achieve the impossible for many citizens in Vancouver. This turns many of the dilemmas Stock faces into well thought out time travel puzzles, and best of all, the game always respects the intelligence of the player. While the implementation of the White Chronicle starts out simple enough, the more abilities you gain, the more complicated the puzzles get. But trust me, I mean that in the best way possible. Because you see, combat is rooted in this design philosophy too. The battle system is turn-based like other JRPGs, but has a gimmick that makes it really stand out. Your enemies stand on a 3x3 grid, and being aware of their positioning and movement is key to success. The goal in this system is to use your arsenal of movement-based attacks to stack your enemies on the same space and unleash devastating combos on all of them. This starts out simple so players can get used to it, but the game manages to innovate its own combat system every time you start to think you're getting bored of it. Turn manipulation, traps, attacks that hit entire rows or columns, and other abilities unlock as you progress. Also, you're rewarded extra experience in battles for experimentation and strategic attacks. This remake adds support attacks as well, which can add some more damage between your attacks on occasion and extend your combos. It's pretty challenging at times, and some fights can occasionally feel a little unfair. Certain boss fights can drag on while you figure out that ideal strategy, but thankfully, moments like this are few and far between. Another thing that can be rough is the beginning, where health and magic items can be scarce since you won't have a lot of money. It'll be a bit before you have disposable income, considering the amount of equipment you'll have to keep up with, although this was actually rebalanced in Perfect Chronology. Another unique addition to the remake is Possible History, which is unlocked after Stock meets the mystical Nemesia. These are optional quests that send Stock to numerous, mostly insignificant timelines to search for objects called artifacts. These become available to Stock as he continues through the main story, and reward him with money, useful items, and expanded lore about Vancouver that wasn't present in the original release. Unfortunately, these side histories can often be inconsistent in quality, but I never found one I wasn't at least a little bit interested in, and the promise of more lore was enough to keep me going. Some are as simple as a boss fight, while others employ the game's history jumping mechanic. Completing these results in a new ending, but I'm not gonna touch on that because of spoilers. The great thing about Possible History is that since it's optional, fans of the original game don't have to participate in it if they don't want to. The game even takes this into consideration, giving the players a choice between two modes at the beginning of the game. Perfect mode will introduce Possible History into your playthrough, while Append mode will play out like the original with the new content being accessible after beating the main story. The next big addition is the Vault of Time, which is an optional dungeon where players can fight enemies for crystals that can be redeemed for special equipment and items. There are a bunch of new difficulty settings as well, which is bound to satisfy anyone's preferences. But gameplay and story aren't the only aspects that have been improved. Perfect Chronology features new character art done by Masaki Hiroka, whose work you might recognize from Castlevania Order of Ecclesia and Suikoden Tierkreis. Many fans were worried about the transition to a slightly more anime art style, but I think the new art still matches the tone perfectly. This also provides an opportunity for character portraits to show different emotions, which was surprisingly absent in the original game. This gives the cast a lot more personality and the emotional moments that much more weight to them, since you aren't just looking at the same blank expressions. It's not all redraws though, as Eruka, the Orb Princess, has a completely new design now. Personally, the original design looked extremely bland to me, so this is another welcome change. There were also new sprites made for Stock when he moves diagonally, which is a really nice touch. The entire game has been changed to use the 3DS's upper screen, unlike the original which was stuck on the bottom screen. The menu, font, text boxes, and UI all had massive overhauls, and from a purely technical standpoint, this honestly feels like one of the best 3DS remakes Atlus has ever made. The widescreen presentation and the cleaned up textures and sprites really make the beauty of Radiant Historia shine. The pixel work is a nice throwback to SNES era design, and it looks as good as your nostalgia remembers it looking. The English voice acting is amazing, and I'd say it's fully voice acted with an asterisk. To be more specific, every character with a portrait is fully voiced in every scene they're in, which is more than I was ever expecting, but the rest of the characters only have a few voice lines or grunts. It's a nitpick, but it was kinda jarring sometimes. As for the soundtrack, it was composed by the famous Yoko Shinomura, known for her work on the Kingdom Hearts series. Her music here still maintains her distinct sound while being one of her most unique compositions to date. Her melodies are enchanting, somber, and mysterious, and I can guarantee they'll stick with you long after you finish playing. Okay, wow, so my adoration for this game must be pretty obvious. Like I said, Radiant Historia is one of my favorite games, and it pleases me to no end to say this is the definitive version of this wonderful RPG. Granted, it has some issues, but these are incredibly minute and never really detracted from my overall experience. I'm so incredibly happy this exists, and even happier that I was able to fall in love with it all over again. I'll sum up this bit of shilling with a well-defined, all-encompassing hook. If you like Atlus, time travel, Final Fantasy Tactics levels of political intrigue, or Kingdom Hearts music, there is an extremely high chance there is something here for you. Oh, would you look at that? It's the good old Cullen seal of approval on the box. I didn't even notice that. Wow. This is absolutely my favorite game of 2018 so far, so I hope you check it out because it deserves every ounce of your attention. I give Radiant Historia Perfect Chronology a final grade of an A+. Like usual, people gotta be thanked and accounts gotta be plugged, so let's go! Thank you to @SupremeZerker for helping me edit the script on this video.
He also provided his voice for the skit. He's a good lad. Why don't you go follow him on Twitter?
Thanks to @_CPancake for drawing the seal of approval art that you see. It's a nice little doodle. I have it as the profile picture on my Twitter. And once again, thank you to Atlus USA for providing me with a review code of this game. It was an amazing experience and I hope to work with you guys again soon. Now, on to social media.
Psst. If you like my voice and want to see me stream regularly, why don't you follow me on Twitch at Dr. Cullen PhD?
If you want some more updates and some memes, why don't you follow me on Twitter at Dr. Cullen PhD? Hey, if you liked the video, why don't you subscribe? Tell me what you liked about it. I don't know. Feedback is nice. I have no concrete ideas on what the next video is going to be on at the moment, so if there's anything you guys want to see me cover, why don't you put it in the comments? That'll be it for me. Hope you guys have a good one. Bye-bye. Boop.